Kakadosh Boker Tov, we're going to continue with Tzadik Tet Amud Aleph, 99A1. Okay, we're by to 2 dots, which is basically the second line. Okay, it's actually the third line when it says, starting the second line, it says like this. So we're talking about that as long as you're not going to take the object outside of the 4 amot from the place where it's going to be. Okay? So says the Gemara, ha hotzi. Yeah, if it is that you did come and you did take out the object, chayav chatat. You're going to be obligated a chayav chatat. So lema mesayeh le Rava, why don't we just say that this comes to be mesayeh to Rava? Okay? The Rava comes and he says, Amar Rava, hamavir chefetz mitchilat arba lesof arba, ve'viro derech alav, chayav. So according to Shitat Rava, if you took an object from one side, from in the Reshut Rabim, from one side of 4 amot to the other side of 4 amot, but you put it on your head. You remember this picture yesterday, the picture already yesterday, which means that you went from one part to another part in the Reshut Rabim, but you had it in your head, you had it on top of yourself. So you're going to be chayav chatat. So therefore, since our Mishnah is also talking about the same thing, where a person's on top of a gag gavoa sarat tfachim, which means you're on top of a roof, which is more than 10 tfachim tall, and you're bending down to try to bring up the chefetz from the Reshut Rabim as it fell down. Remember, it rolled down. So you're bringing it up. In a stam, you're coming and you're bringing it above the 10 tfachim from Reshut Rabim, which is the makom patur. So the fact that you had an akirat chefetz vanachato b'Reshut Rabim, right? And therefore, we're going to come and we're going to say, you're going to be chayav chatat. So this is a proof to Rava. So says the Gemara, miktani im hotzi chayav chatat? Did we actually teach in the Gemara that if you did take it out, you're going to be chayav chatat? We didn't learn that. Dilma, maybe im hotzi patur v'lasur. Maybe if you already did do that, it's patur v'lasur, not chayav chatat. Meaning you are placing an anacha, you are placing an assumption, right? That you are assuming that if you actually do it, you're chayav chatat. Whoever told you? Maybe it's only going to be patur v'lasur. Maybe it's only going to be midrabanan. Ikadamni, there's another version of the Gemara where the Gemara says, ha hotzi, if you did take it out, so it's going to be patur v'asur. So lema tavetuv to the Rava, why don't we just say that this is a refutation against Rava? This is a question against Rava. So the Gemara now is going to flip the coin, the other way around. Says the Gemara, miktani hotzi patur v'asur, is a written in Fudash hotzi patur v'asur? So read that. Dilma motzi chayav chatat. Maybe bemet you are chayav chatat. So the fact that we don't know, that's why you can't bring a proof from either way. Any way where you're going to bring me a proof, I'm just going to flip it on its head and say it's the other way around. So therefore, we cannot bring any type of proofs. Okay? Fine. Then we said in the Mishnah, right? Again, we're on the 2 dots. Lo ya'amod adam b'shut yachid v'yashtim b'shut arbim, b'shut arbim v'yashtim b'shut yachid, v'chein lo yaruk. So if you remember, we're talking about that a person cannot stand in the private domain and start urinating in the public domain, or the public domain, so urinating in the private domain. And again, he shouldn't also have his phlegm. He shouldn't take his phlegm out. So Amar Rav Yosef says, Hishtin berak chayav chatat. Right? He says over here, if right now a person did urinate, or he did come and take out his phlegm from one to another, he's going to be chayav chatat, because he took it from one domain to another domain. Okay? At the end of the day, the guy was urinating. He's in the private domain. He urinated into the public domain, or vice versa. So now he's going to be chayav chatat. So says the Gemara, he says, 1 second, in order to be chayav, you need a kira v'anacha that it has to be in the top of a place, right, which is minimum 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim. But here you don't have it, right? Why? Because here we're talking about the mouth is not 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim. Because remember, we're talking about that you're phlegming, you're taking the phlegm out of your mouth. So you don't have 4 by 4 in your mouth. 4 is 32 centimeters. Every tefach is 8 centimeters. So 4 by 4, you need 32 centimeters square. Remember that a ruler, you remember the rulers in the olden days, the good old days. So those rulers was 30 centimeters. So that means you're talking about 32 centimeters. So, and we're not talking about shitat chazonish. Instead, we're talking about regular. Yeah, grach nae. So if it's like that, yeah, the guy has to have a mouth like this. Yeah, something like that in order to, so he doesn't have that. Also the shalchufit, where the shetin is coming out from, also doesn't have it. So says the Gemara, machshavto meshavya lemakom. The machshava, which means the fact that you wanted to come and you wanted to urinate or you wanted to take out your phlegm, that in itself is making it akira from a place which is important, even though it doesn't physically have 4x4 tfachim. What's the proof? But if you're not going to say this, Rava says, Zarak v'nach b'fia kelev or b'fia kivshan. If you went and you took and you threw something, 4 amot in the Reshut Rabim, and it landed in the mouth of a dog, or b'fia kivshan, which is basically inside an oven, okay, the mouth of the oven, and it gets burnt. Here, it says over here, you're going to be, that's hanacha, so it says you're going to be chayav chatat. 1 second, you don't have it, because basically the b'fia kelev or b'fia kivshan, right? Remember, the ovens are not like nowadays that you have a big, broad oven and then you open up the door. You have much more than 32 centimeters square there. We're talking about that it used to be like a circle, right? That's where the ovens used to be. When we're talking about whether it's a tanur or kupach or all those things in Mishnah, we learned in Shabbat, if you remember. We're talking about a circle. So many times it didn't have 32 centimeters square, okay? So it says over here, right? You need a 4x4 tfachim. You don't have it. Ela, but rather machshavto, your machshava makes it that it is as if it is a place of 4x4 tvachim. Hachanami, so to here, machshava meshav lemakom. It is going to make it into a makom. Okay? Fine. By Rava. Rava comes and he asks the following question. Hu b'shut yachid upiyama b'shut rabim. Okay. Yeah, the person is in a private domain, but his male organ is in the public domain. So, right? So, mahu, what's halacha? Yeah, batar akira azlinan. Do we go after akirat hashetin from the place b'chalal guf, and therefore, since his body is in the reshut yachid, it's like it's going from reshut yachid to reshut arbim? Or batar yetzia azlinan. Do we go after the place where it's coming out from? At the end of the day, it's coming from the male organ, and the male organ is in the public domain. So, do we go from the original place where it comes from? How do you? There's a bladder. They say in English, no? Bladder. From the bladder, okay. Or do you say that you're coming from the actual place, so the male organ, where it's actually coming out from? So where do you go by? What's the ikar? Answers the Gemara, teiku. We don't have an answer. Yeah, when Eliyahu Navi comes, you could ask him. Okay? Of the what?
In other topics, when מהמקור או לא מהמקור, מהדבר עצמו או לא מהדבר עצמו. יש לנו רולינג לדברים כאלה, בסוגיות אחרות.
I don't know.
למה לא משהו?
No idea. I don't know what you're referring to. Like, I'm not sure exactly where would you be able to learn out here. Here we're talking about the makom yetzia is it's the same body. The only thing is, which part are we going out from? It's not two separate entities, a kli and the liquid which is in the kli. Yeah, v'chen lo yarok. So we also said now in the 2 dots, you're not allowed to take out the phlegm. So Rabbi Yehuda says, af mishenitlash, right, which means that even if it gets in your mouth, which means it came out already. It's already in your mouth, but it's already dislodged from your throat. Okay, so also you're not allowed to go for a moment because you have to basically get it out of your throat. Right? So says the Gemara, right? And even though he didn't come and he didn't turn it in his mouth, but we learned on the Mishnah. Imagine right now you're coming and you're eating dried figs of truma, which were not susceptible for truma. Yadayim mesuavot with dirty hands. Okay, with staim yadayim, which means that they weren't purified hands. Yichnis yado letoch piv litol tzror. So you put your hand inside your mouth to take out a little rock. Now, derech agav, you went and you touched the devila. Now remember, the devila was truma. Okay, Rabbi Meir says, mitameh. It's going to be mitameh. Why? Because the rock in your mouth already made it susceptible for truma. Okay, that's what he's saying over here. So he says, Rabbi Yosef metahed. Rabbi Yosef says it's going to be tahor. Right? Why? Because as long as it's in your mouth, it's still part of your body. So it's not considered a mashke. It's not considered a liquid to make it susceptible for tumah. Remember, in order to make it susceptible for tumah, you need one of the liquids in order to come and to touch it. Now here, the question is it considered a liquid or not? So according to the second shita, which was Rabbi Yosef, he says it's tahor because it's still not a liquid. It's still in your mouth. It never left your body. So therefore, it's not a liquid to make it susceptible for tumah. According to Rabbi Meir, it's mitameh. Rabbi Yehuda says, he pechba, right? If right now you come and you put it from one place to another place, right, in your mouth, then it's tameh. Lo yipechba, but even though if it was already out in the mouth, but you didn't start moving it from one place in the mouth to another place in the mouth, tahor, it's going to be tahor. So you see from here that everything has to do with tipech bar or not, according to Rabbi Yehuda. So says the Gemara, right? And therefore, what we're trying to say is, because this was Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda says now that even without tipech bar, you have to spit it out, right? And now we're saying that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you do need to actually move it, right? Transfer it from one part of the mouth to the other part of the mouth. So Rabbi Yochanan says, Muchlefet hashita, you have to switch the shitot. What does that mean? Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, you have to switch it. That after it already comes into your mouth, it's already going to be a problem. Okay? That means at the beginning he thought like our Mishnah, that immediately once it's in your mouth, it's a problem. Then afterwards he said, no, you have to switch it from one part to the other. The Shakish says, Le'olam lo tachlif, don't switch the shitot. Hacham ma'eskina, what are we dealing with? Bekicho, not regular rock, not regular saliva, but rather with lechut, which means that it comes from the chest, like phlegm. Okay? Which means, right, that's what he's trying to say over here, that even if you weren't switching it from one part of the mouth to the other part of the mouth, this is already going to be a masa, carrying. Okay? So says the Gemara Vatanya, we learned in the Braita, Rabbi Yehuda says, Kicho v'nitlash. If right now the kicho came and was nitlash from your body, right, which means it into your mouth, still you're not supposed to walk 4 amot. Mailav rok v'nitlash. Are we not talking about the kavanah even rok v'nitlash? Because here the Braita is telling you mifurash, whether it's kicho v'riko, it's the same thing. Okay, so says the Gemara, no, kicho v'nitlash. Only your kicho, which is not the rok, but the kicho. Again, the difference is one is saliva and one is with phlegm, which means that it comes up from the chest area. Okay, so says the Gemara Vatanya, we learned in the Braita, Rabbi Yehuda says kicho shenitlash ken rok v'nitlash. Sorry, v'chen ruko shenitlash lo yalech 400 shirok. So here it's written v'chen, both of them, they have the same halacha. So whether it's rok or kicho, it's the same thing. So it says, you're right. It's like the first thing that we mentioned, that according to him, he said that the rok in the mouth is not considered part of the body, right? However, though, if you come and you start making it, move it, right, from one place to another, then it's considered a mashke. But beforehand, it's not considered, right, mashkin. Therefore, it's not going to make it susceptible for tumah. Okay? Amar Resh Lakish says Resh Lakish, kicho bifnei rabo. If somebody is going to come and he's going to take out this kicho in front of his rabbi, chayav mitah. He's going to be chayav mitah, death penalty. Right? Obviously, here we're talking about bidei shamayim, from the heavens. Shneimar, but it says in the pasuk, kol mesaneai avu mavet. All those that hate me, the Torah, they love death. Al tikre mesaneai, don't read it. Mesaneai el masniai. What does it mean, masniai? Hamasni da'at rabo. Right? That means basically, which means he's coming, he's bringing things which are making it disgusting. Okay? Here with bad midot. So he comes and he says, Veha menasanis. This is 1 second, but he's a noose. Right? He's force majeure. What do you want from him? At the end of the day, it's not that he's bechavana coming and taking out his phlegm. It's just coming out. So it says the Gemara, kiach v'raka. Says, no, we're talking about where he actually took it out and he spit it out in front of his rabbi, which means that he has to go on the side, or he has to even swallow it, right? Or to swallow it inside of a clothing, whatever, but to come and to spit it out in front of his rebbe, that's disgraceful. And therefore, that's why he's fitting for punishment to mitabi de shamayim. Okay? Very good. We're now going to show pictures. So I'm going to share the screen. So a person should not be in the Reshut Yachid. So this is picture 1057, okay? And he's going to be drinking in the Reshut Rabim. Okay, he's in a private domain, and he's drinking in a public domain, or the opposite. Reshut Rabim, public domain. He's drinking in Reshut Yachid. Unless he has to put in his head in the majority of his body, the makom shu shoteh, where he's drinking. The same halacha would apply to a gat. Right? This is the place where they make the wine. So this is the gat. How do you say gat in English? The wine.
Wine press.
Wine press. Thank you. Wine press. Okay, very good. Fine. That was Jean-Paul Kouchia, doctor. Yeah, okay. Says the Gemara, Reisha Rabbanan, V'Seifa Rabbimin. Are you going to tell me that the Reisha is going to be the Rabbanan, right? And the Seifa is going to be Rabbimin? What are we trying to say? We're trying to say that the Reisha is a Rabbanan, but they say that's mutar la'adam la'amor b'shut echad, v'tzitach b'shut acheret. You're allowed to stand in one reshut and take it in another reshut. The Seifa is going according to Rabbimin. We're saying that what? That you can't, right? Because basically that's what we're saying. That so how could it be? What's going on exactly, right? The previous Mishnah, right, is Rabbanan, and this Mishnah is Rabbimin, because here you're not allowed to take from one place to another. So Amar Rav Yosef says of Yosef, b'chafetzin shetzechim lo divrei hakol. To do is something that you actually need. Even Chachamim agree that in any chefetz that you need, right, in that reshut, we do make a gezerah, but there's going to be a sur to be mitalteh, but maybe you're going to start carrying it from one to another. So for here, even the rabbis agree that it's going to be prohibited. So Ibai Lehu, so we're going to ask the following question: Karmelit mai, what's halacha to do with a Karmelit? Yeah. So says the Gemara, what does it mean Karmelit mai? So says the Gemara, right? What's the deal with a Karmelit or a Bika? That the Yisur of the Hotzah is not going to be Doraita, it's only going to be Durabanan. Are you allowed to stand in a Karmelit and start coming and drinking whatever it is from the other Reshut Rabim or Reshut Yechid or vice versa? So says the Gemara, Abaye comes and he says, it's the same halacha. It's a sur. Also, we're not making any distinction between them. So Amar Rava comes and he says, I don't understand you. He gufa gezerah, va'ana neikum v'nigzor gezerah l'gzerah. The entire concept of a Karmelit is already a gezerah. It's already been Rabbanan, which means we made a decree because we didn't want to come and start making problems, and then a person's going to come and start carrying mamash between Reshut Rabin to Reshut Yechid or vice versa. So therefore we said that there's a no man's land, which is called Karmelit, and we're going to be Machmir. So now we're going to come and we're going to make another gezerah to another gezerah and say that not only are you not allowed to carry in a Karmelit, but even if it's going to be from the Karmelit to the Reshut Rabin or the Karmelit that you're drinking, the same halacha would apply. So Abaye comes and he says, Mina min Allah. Right? How do I know this? Miritani, from the fact that we learned, right? Bechen begat, tzadik tet amubet, 99b. When we say the same halacha would apply to the gat, right? We understood that this is the exact same halacha, which means that a person cannot stand in the Reshut Rabim and put his drinking kli, right, into a Karmelit, into the Karmelit here, right? The Karmelit, and then come and to bring it inside. So says the Gemara, Rava says, no, linyan ma'aser. Really, we're talking about to do with Maaser. The Tanam is learned in the Mishnah. Shotin ala gat, you are allowed to drink wine from the gat. Whether it's going to be water, you're going to be mozeg the yain with hot water or with cold water. Upatur, but you're actually going to be patur. Why? Because as long as you don't take the wine outside of the gat, outside of this wine press, it's not considered shtiyat keva, so you're still patur from Maaser. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok mechayev. Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok says you're going to be chayav Maaser. Chachamim say alachamim if it's going to be hot water that you're putting inside. Remember that they always have to dilute the wine with water. So if it's going to be warm water, so it says you're going to be chayav. It's going to be cold water, you're going to be patur. Why? Because once you come and you put warm water, it becomes keva because now it's not fitting anymore. The rest that's going to be in the gut, in the wine press, but then it's going to go bad. You put hot water, it's going to be cold water. It's still going to be patur. You're just bringing everything back. Meaning if you come and you dilute the wine here, okay, in this cup, if it was with hot water, you can't put it back in. If you put it back in, you're going to ruin the water, which is the wine, which is in this wine press. If it's going to be cold water, you could put it back in. There's no problem. So therefore, that's going to make the difference. So therefore, when it says that in our Mishnah, v'chen hadin begat, it means we're going like Rabbi Meir, that any type of drinking wine in the gat is considered shtiyat arai. And therefore, what it's coming to teach you is that you're not obligated in maaser, but nothing to do with the entire concept of what we mentioned, that it's going to be a patur or a sur or all these other things. Okay? By next Mishnah, we're going back to another picture. Kolet adam min hamazchila. A person is permitted, right, to stand in the Reshut Rabim, where that's this picture. Okay, picture 1060. And he's going to be kolet from the avid, right? He's going to be kolet in mid-air from a utensil that he has, right, when the water is falling off from the gutter. So here you have the maschila, the gutter, and he's got a utensil here, and the water is coming down from the gutter. He's allowed to come and he's allowed to collect the rainwater from there. Okay, again, here's a maschila, Okay, here it says that it's 10 tfachim. Here's going to be less than 3 tfachim. Okay, so it says lemata me'asara tfachim. We're obviously talking about when it's less than 10 tfachim from the ground. Umina tzinor, right, and from the tzinor, from this pipe, right, that's going downwards. Mikol makom shoteh, you're allowed to actually drink, which means whether you're actually collect from the avid, from the air, or you're actually putting it too close to the gutter, you're allowed to. Or you could even put your mouth close to the gutter and drink directly from there. Okay, fine. So says the Gemara, yes. No, that's what we said. We said it has to be less, 10 or less. No, but then it's a different domain. It's a different domain. Again, okay, let's see the Gemara. So, kolet in, aval metzaref, lo. Says the Gemara, our Mishnah is only talking about kolet, which means that you're trying to be kolet from the airspace, right, which is coming down. That is going to be mutar. But metzaref, if you're going to put it close to it, lo, it's still going to be asur. My time out, what's the reasoning? Amar Rav Nachman comes and he says, here we're talking about where the maschila is going to be less than 3 tfachim, okay? And therefore, anything which is going to be less than 3 tfachim, samuch legag kegag dami. It's considered like the actual gag, which means that it's considered the gag in itself. So therefore, if you're going to come and put your mouth or the utensil, it's like you're taking it from the gag. Now, again, if the gag is considered its own reshut, right, its own domain, so therefore what's happening is you're taking that from the reshut yechid to reshut rabim. You're standing in the reshut rabim. So now the Gemara is going to say, okay, the Gemara is now going to say, and he's going to bring a proof to that which we just said, that if it's going to be within 3 tvachim, it's going to be considered, right, part of the same, right, the same property, the same domain. So Tanya Miyachi, we also learned in a Braita, Omed Adam b'Reshut Yachid, a person can be standing in the Reshut Yachid, u'magbiya yado lemala me'asara tvachim. Okay, so he says, and he could be magbiya yado, and he could pick up his hand above 10 tvachim. Okay, pachom mishlosha samuch legag, less than 3 close to the gag. Vekolet, and he could take from there without shelo yitzaref. So here, this is the picture over here, 1063. A person's in a reshut yachid. This is a reshut yachid. He's going to put his hand up above, right, above 10 tvachim. So from down here till here, it's above 10 tvachim. Okay, this is kolet. Kolet means that he's grabbing it there, and mitzaref is he's putting it directly, pushing it directly against the wall. So that's what this picture is. Let me just see if I make it bigger, if you could see it better without losing. Okay, a little bit better. So it says over here, right, this is mitzaref, that you're putting it mamash right by it, and kolet is here in the mid-air. So now again, we're talking about that it's less than 3 tvachim from the gag. So it says over here, right, if it's going to be less than 3 tvachim samuch legag, you're allowed to come and to be kolet, right, the water. There's no problem. But you're not allowed to be mitzaref, right? Now why? Because if you're going to be mitzaref, it's like you're taking the water from the gag in itself. So since you're taking the water from the gag in itself, it's over another Yisur D'Rabbanan. Because again, you're doing tiltul and Reshut Yachid, right? To another Reshut Yachid. From one Reshut Yachid to another Reshut Yachid. That gag, that roof, belongs to another person's house. So therefore, that's considered Reshut Yachid. You are on top of your roof, which is another Reshut Yachid. So therefore, you're taking from one Reshut Yachid to another Reshut Yachid. It's going to be a problem. So Tanya Yidach, we learned in another Braita, Lo ya'amod adam b'Reshut Yachid. A person should not stand in Reshut Yachid. Yagbiya yado lemal maseret tvachim. Pick up your hand above 10 tvachim. Pachom mishosha samuch legag, less than 3 samuch legag. Vitzaref, right? Aval koletu v'shoteh. But you are allowed to be kolet, and you're going to be shoteh. Okay, so now this Braita, okay, it was the exact same Braita, just the opposite way around. The first Braita just said, Omed Adam B'Reshut Yachid Magbi Yado, and then he just says, you're allowed to be kolet, but you're not allowed to be mitzaref. The second Braita said, a person should not be in the Reshut Yachid, pick his hand up and be mitzaref, but he is allowed to be kolet. So it's the exact same thing, just we inversed it, but it's the exact same halachot. Right? Just remember that klita yes, siruf no.
If we're talking about reversing, if it was more than 3 tvachim separate from the roof, then I could have continuation all the way to the karka before. And I'm less than tall than 10 tefachim, including my hand, because then it will be not from the domain of the roof, it will be like separated from the domain, and then it will be not private domain.
No, that would be more asur then. And then you can't even be kolet. Because only if it's within the 3 tefachim, you're still within the same domain, as we say levud.
כן.
So then it's not.
אבל מאידך, 3 תפחים גם מגביל אותנו, כי הוא קשור לגג, והגג הוא דומה בפני עצמו, יש יחיד.
So that's what I'm saying. If it's going to be more than 3 tefachim, it's going to be asur.
רגע, אבל אם אתה מפריד אותו...
It's going to become asur. One second. Umina tzinor mikol makom shoteh, but you're allowed to drink from the actual tzinor in itself. Okay, so Tana, we learned in a Braita, im yesh betzinor arba'a al arba'a, if you're going to have in the tzinor 4 by 4 tefachim, it's going to be asur mipnei shu kimotzi min reshut lereshut, because it's like you're going to take out from one reshut to another reshut, from one domain to another domain. So this is, what? No, nothing to do with it. This is a completely different domain. 4 by 4 is a completely different domain. So, no, 4 by 4 tefachim is not, we're not talking about in height, we're talking about in sign. So this is that Mishnah that we just said. Now we're going to start the next Mishnah. So we're on the second Mishnah on Tzadik Tet Amud Bet, 99b. Okay? Now, fine. Mishnah. Bor b'reshut rabim. Okay, a pit in the middle of the reshut rabim. Yeah, we're on the Mishnah. Yeah, a bor b'reshut rabim. When you have a pit in the middle of the reshut rabim, v'chulyato gavo 10 tefachim, right? And now what happens is that you have the earth, okay, is above 10 tefachim. Chalon shal gabav memalein emenu b'Shabbat. So the window which is on top of it, you could actually come and you could fill it up in Shabbat. That means you could be in the house and you could fill up water from the bor right through the window. And the same halacha would apply to the ashpa, b'reshut rabim. So here, I don't know why we didn't have a picture of the water, right? But we do have a picture of the chalon with the ashpa. So this is the ashpa. Okay, this is the garbage. Here's your chalon. Okay, again, remember, you have 4 by 4 tefachim, 10 tefachim height, and you have a window. So you have the window on top. Okay, so here you're throwing out the garbage over here. So it says over here, ashpa b'reshut rabim gavo 10 tefachim, chalon shel gabav shofchin letocha mayim Shabbat. You're allowed to pour water on it in Shabbat. Okay, fine. So now it says the Gemara, b'may eskina, what are we dealing with exactly? Okay, ilema besmucha. If you're talking about that you have a bor, which is mamash samuch lebayit, which means within the 10 tefachim, right? This is going to be a little bit to do with that. It's mitzaref. Fine, we already saw that. No. Okay.
You could stay in the first one.
Yeah, no, we're still going to be here for now. So it says here, ilema besmucha. If you're going to tell me that it's so close by the house, which means within the 4 tefachim, so lama li chulya asara. So then why do I need that the chulya has to be 10 tefachim tall, even without that, right? Since there's no distance of 4 tefachim, it's a makom ptur. So since it's a makom ptur, there shouldn't be any problem. So Ravuna says, what are you dealing with it? The mufleget, when it's further away, meaning it's a distance of 4 tefachim from the wall, okay, or from your house. The ta'ama and the reasoning why, because you have 10 tefachim. But if you didn't have 10 tefachim height, you're taking from one reshut yachid to another reshut yachid, reshut rabim, which means that only because it's considered, right, that it's got 10 tefachim tall, because if not, then be'emet, you're carrying from the bor to the house, right, or from the courtyard, whatever you want to call it, and therefore, you're going through the reshut rabim. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, "Afilu tema bismucha." Even if you want, we could still be talking about it. It's mamash samuch. And here we're talking about the bor of chulya mitzarfin la'asara. Here we're talking about the bor and the chulya, right? Which means the pit is 7 tefachim. The chulya is the earth around it. So the earth around it and the pit, it's mitzaref for 10 tefachim. Which means here you only have depth of 7 tefachim. You have 3 tefachim above ground. but still it's going to be mitzaref, and now you have the 10 tfachim, and there's no problem. That's the chidush that we're talking about. Ashva b'rshut rabim. We're talking about the garbage dump in the rshut rabim. Lo chashin Hashem tinatel ashpa. Says, well, we don't suspect that somebody at the end of the day they're going to take this ashba. V'haravim baravada marav Yitzchak. Maaseh b'mavui echad. There was a story with Mamavui. Shetzido echad kalei yam. The one side finished with a sea. That's over here, right? Maaseh b'mavui echad. Shetzido echad kalei yam. V'tzido echad kalei ashpa. So here you have the ashpa, right, like the garbage dump, and here you have the sea on the other side. Okay, so what happens is, right? V'tzido echad kalei ashpa uva. It came in front of Rabbi. He didn't say it's asur mutar to do anything. Why didn't he say it was mutar? He thought maybe they were going to take away the ashpa, and then there's not going to be a mechitza, and therefore there's not going to be a shel mechitzot. Right? Also, maybe all of a sudden it's going to come up, right, in the sea. You're going to have different types of chol, avanim, and all these things. And then what's going to happen is that now it's going to be a difference between the water there and what you have. So Yisul lo amarbo, but he also didn't say it's asur to be metaltel in it, right, in the Smavoi. Why not? He said, because at the end of the day, the kaime mechitzot, you have mechitzot. I mean, you do have mechitzot right now. So says the Gemara. So from the Ikar mutar letaltel and amavoi through a lechi v'korah, and still Rebbe didn't want to say that it's mutar because maybe they're going to take away the shpa or they're going to take away the yam, and then it's going to be the problem. Where's what? No. Mi'ikar adin it's mutar b'lechi korah. But here though you had this, so technically, do I need the lechi v'korah or not? So technically, here you have the depth of 10 tefachim. Here 10 tefachim. It's obviously more than 4 by 4, right? So therefore, technically, you don't need it anymore, right? But he's saying no. He didn't want to say it's mutar because maybe you're gonna get rid of the ashpar. You're gonna get rid of the sea. So it says the Gemara lakash. It's not a question. Hadi yachid ad rabim. The maaseh that came in front of Rebbe was talking about an ashpar that belonged to a yachid. So since it belongs to a yachid, to an individual, maybe I am going to suspect that they're going to take it away. But if it belongs to the rabbin, I'm not going to suspect that you're going to take it away, and therefore it's going to be permitted. Here it is. This is the case. Over here, where they took away the garbage, or the yam is going to take up the siton, and now you don't have it anymore. So that's only going to be over here. So you're going to have a problem. Okay, next. Mishnah. Ilan sheya mesach al haaretz. An ilan which is going to be putting its shade on the ground. Imen nofo gavoa min al shosha tfachim. If the nof is not above, right, 3 tfachim from the ground, metaltelim tachtav. So you are allowed to come and you are allowed to carry underneath it. How do you translate nof in English?
Scene.
The what?
Scene.
The scene. What's that?
Nof.
No, not nof of the scenery. Here we're talking about of the tree. Imen nofo. It's the how do you? It's not. You don't translate shade. What is it?
¿Cómo en español?
No, estoy preguntando en inglés primero.
Sí, pero ¿cómo es en español? ¿No sabe tampoco?
Branches.
The
branches, yeah.
Branches.
Lanafim. Yeah, so here we're talking about the las ramas. Yeah, these branches. So that's how you say it in English. Okay, so the branches. So if the branches are not 3 tfachim from the ground, that's why if you see in the picture, it's mamash towards the ground. Right? So if it's not going to be the three tfachim towards the ground, you're allowed to be metaltel mitachtav. You're allowed to do it underneath it. Why? Because you say levud. Sharashav gevoa minan shoshat tfachim. If you have the sharashim, which are the roots, right? 3 tfachim. Look, here you have roots coming out. Very difficult to see, but okay. You have here coming out. So if you have it coming out, 3 tfachim, the raíces, right? We're talking about the roots of the tree. Lo yashev alehen, you're not supposed to come and sit on it. Because Chachamim say you're not allowed to use a tree on Shabbat. So if it's coming out 3 tfachim, so you're not allowed to use it. So Amar Ravuna ber Rav Yeshua says, Ravuna ben Yeshua, em metaltelim bo yoter mibet satayim. Right? When we come and we permit you to carry underneath the tree, which is like making the schach, you're not allowed to carry more than a bet satayim. Another picture? No? This kuf. No? Okay. Meaning more than a betzatayim, which means that if you have a big, huge tree, right? So even if it was like that, you're still not allowed to carry more than betzatayim. My tama, what's the reasoning? Says the Gemara, the kuf amud aleph, mishum dehavi dirash tashmisha la'avir. because it's like a dira, which is not made for the inside, but rather the avir, which is on the outside, which means this dira was not made to live in it, but rather to protect because of the sadot. So therefore, in such a way, so you're not allowed to carry in it more than a betzatayim. Okay, and then we have the 2 dots for tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. So Blina, tomorrow we have, remember, on Tuesday, Wednesday, usually we have a little bit more time. So then what we'll do is we'll go ahead. Okay?
Thank you, Rob.